I am here. I am here and I'm being recorded. I have my materials.
Ed Rosen,
I'm here and have my material.
Harry Vinzenberg.
Yes,
Vinzenberg.
yes, yes.
Nicole Garcia is not here today. And I'm Marvin Curtis, and I have my materials also. We have a quorum for our meeting. The consent agenda is before the board. We have a motion to accept the consent agenda.
Move to approve.
Christine moved, I have a second.
Second.
Ruth second. I'll call the roll. Ruth,
Aye.
Alan. Aye. Christine,
Aye.
Ann,
Aye.
Gary,
Aye.
and I vote aye. So the consent agenda has been approved. Director's report, Stephanie.
Thank you. So we did receive 5 responses for a request for proposals. We had created a rubric, Rana and Kara and I, for scoring those. We took the top 3 of those scorings and we'll be interviewing those this week. Terry and Alan will sit in on most of those interviews, as well as the administrative team, and also Joe Geprich, who's the facilities manager. And then we can proceed. I don't really want to wait until next month to get a contract signed and start moving on this. So we can either schedule a special meeting, or you can approve me to enter a contract based on the consensus of the group that is doing the interviews, and then ratify that the next time. So we don't need board action, but I'm looking for opinions on that, how you all would like to proceed.
I'm okay with giving you the authority.
Yes, and
We're gonna approve it in the end anyway, so.
Yes. Mhm.
and 2 of our financial people will be present at the meetings, and I'm sure that Terry will ask every question about, can we afford it?
Yes.
Somebody has to, yes, okay, so we'll plan on that then, and I will send that information out to the board when we make a decision. And Focus has been working on that survey for us. We just got that yesterday, Jenny.
No, it's been up for about a week now. The last I heard, they've been to a few
Okay.
outreach events. Last I heard, we had about 80 responses. So far,
Oh,
which is-
great, which we haven't even really started pushing it yet, so great.
But it hasn't gone out to membership in general.
It won't go out to our cardinal, because we're really targeting non-users or people that use very frequently. So we made the conscious choice not to send it out broadly to card holders or patrons of the library, just because we want to hear those voices of people that don't have an our.
But we will be sending it out to our partner organizations to have them spread it among their network. Summer Reading Club kickoff party was amazing. I have been a Jim Gill fan since my kids were little, and this is the first time I got to see him perform live. So I may have done all of the motions and all of the dancing with that one. It was a lot of fun. We are being a self-thing.
700 people, where will we be able to accommodate 700 people? That is huge.
Well, between the courtyard and the ballroom, and then it was a come and go event. So everyone wasn't there at the same time.
That really
Yeah, it was a great turnout.
is.
It was a lot of fun. 3D photo booth. Lala Cura was there. It was just a,
Had the local soccer club set up like a.
oh, that's right.
Target, and the kids was like, it was,
They could kick a soccer ball, and a soccer ball would Velcro stick to the target.
it was the best one they've had in at least 5 years. Amazing.
Yeah, it was really good.
I'm gonna stop this for a minute. I need you to come down here.
Oh, yes,
My ears are impacted right now.
we really should get microphones for these meetings.
Stephanie should switch that next to me.
Got it.
Your name tag.
That's right, everyone knows why. We are the South Bend Community School summer feeding site at our main library, so we're doing about 40 meals per day for kids, which I think is a really great thing. Jen and Lisa attended that public library fundraising conference. Part of our strategic plan is to develop a robust program for development and fundraising, so they came back with some really good ideas. The first year we had Juneteenth as an official holiday for our staff and our public, so I think that's a pretty great thing too. And then, of course, I'm really excited about our mural mania. We just got the design for the first of those 2 murals that we'll be getting. And then Ruth, Ruth knows a little bit more about mural mania and has some requests for help. If you wanted to go ahead.
Thanks. So, Alex Allen, who is one of the organizers of this event, was a former student of mine, and so I have a special place in my heart for her. She's been asking, they're bringing in artists from other places, and so she's been doing a fundraiser and trying to get to $5,000, and she's at like $1,800 now. So if anybody would like to donate, there is a Facebook donation spot, or you can see me and I will take your money. The other thing is that they're looking for housing for people, for these artists who are coming in. So if anybody has, some space that they would like to have a housing one of the mural artists, I'd be happy to pass that along through. Annie Johnson is heading up the housing piece of that. She has a shop over in Northwest Neighborhood Association. So anyway, it's really a lot of local energy making our community prettier. And I was just telling Stephanie, whenever I go by one of those murals, it just shouts happy. And it's just like, so I think we just, as a community, they're not asking for much. And so I think it would be great if we could support Alex.
Tell me again the amount per picture. Did you say 1,800 or?
No, she's trying to raise 5,000 total.
Okay,
And she has about 1,800.
okay. 1,800. Thank you.
And then we'll get one on our garage doors. It will cover both of our garage doors, which are white right now and kind of dingy. And then we'll get one on the side of the front of the library building. So we're actually getting 2 this season on between the community learning center and the Friends building. Yeah.
Yeah, so all the more reason why we should support them. Thank you.
And then we have our college and high school interns have started, and we're really excited to have them working at the library. I just got back this afternoon from the American Library Association conference. I think we had 9 people attend the full conference. Every 3rd year, it's in Chicago. That is their home office of ALA. And then we had 7 attend yesterday, just the exhibit hall, which also has some stages and some presentations there too. So that's a great opportunity to learn about forthcoming books, titles, authors, just what's new in the industry. So I was excited we were able to have that many people attend. I will say 3 things that I really focused on. So last month, the Surgeon General came out with a report on the epidemic of loneliness, which is causing health problems across our country and has been exacerbated by COVID. Like, being lonely is worse for you than smoking, and it is health-wise worse for you than drinking 6 alcoholic beverages a day. So the Surgeon General has asked everybody to work on that problem, and I think libraries are uniquely situated to address loneliness. So we're going to start talking about that. There was a lot of talk about it at the conference. We're going to start talking about focusing on that going forward too in our next strategic plan. I went to a number of diversity, equity, and inclusion sessions. And then it was really interesting right now to just hear and meet librarians from all over the country
and the wide variety of experiences with book banning and censorship. I sat last night for a while with 2 librarians from Missouri who had library districts next door to each other. One was experiencing almost no problems at all. The other one was just being harassed by people at her board meetings, being called a pedophile, a groomer, just hateful and spiteful, mean things, and her board meetings had just gotten longer and longer and longer. And just really, and she said, I'm a conservative person, like they would be hard pressed to find a more conservative library director, but they're just, the attacks are constant. There was an academic librarian out of Florida who works on her university's DEI committee, and their committee was told to proceed with caution, are the words that she used. So her question to the panelists at that DEI session was, what do I do? How do I continue? And the panelist said, I hate to say this, but we're sort of in unprecedented territory here because we don't know what the legal implications are as things move through the courts. So I would say, stop doing the committee work. Don't stop doing the work of diversity and inclusion, but the committee isn't going to be effective. You have no power. And that's sort of a discouraging thing to hear. Like, we want people to feel like they belong. We think diversity is something to be celebrated. So it's hard for a lot of librarians in a lot of places. There's a librarian in Indiana whose board meetings are sometimes are going 3.5 hours long, and her board has forced her collection development policy so that they're moving books out of it. They now have picture books in the adult collection. So some librarians are really struggling. So it was good for us all to be there to share stories and just to support each other in the work that we do. So it's an unusual time in the history of libraries in this country, I would say.
Stephanie, I'm just curious, was there any discussion about how communities could be involved? I mean, so far here, hasn't been that like that, but it could be. So is there any discussion of how a community could help prevent, or does that just rattle the cage? I don't know.
I think a lot of that will come out over the next election cycle. And we just need to, I think, probably do more, and I want to do more in just raising awareness in the community that this is happening, because we have pockets here. But it's so important for people to understand that we have everything. Like, we have books that I don't like in our library. We have books that, everybody's gonna have something in the library that you disagree with, that you don't like. But that is what comes with living in a free society where people are allowed to believe things that are different than what you believe. And I think that's a really important thing to protect. And so we have to raise awareness. We have to show up and vote with those values in mind. And beyond that, I think it's just talking about it and letting people know that it's happening.
What are boards doing to dampen that chaos at board meetings? I mean, I'm curious because I know when I was on the school board, different boards have different policies about hearing the visitors. You know, some limit the entire section to 30 minutes. We never did that, so we would get meetings that were really quick, 30. So I'm just curious about, are there things that boards can do that would kind of dampen that a little bit?
So a lot of boards, and even prior to this, a lot of library boards have that sort of 3-minute limit for comment, how the council does. And that does help, but I think where the problems are worse in places where the boards are not supportive. So the appointing body has appointed people who do not believe
and access for everyone. That, like, I think we need a mug that says, just don't check it out. Like, find the books that you like, check those out. Don't check out the ones you don't like. But some people are really insistent on impressing their values on other families. And so when your board is those people, that's a really tough spot for a director to be in.
Any questions for Stephanie?
I will say highlight, Judy Bloom was the opening speaker.
Wow.
So that was a really great thing. And I got to meet Dr. Carla Hayden. For those of you who don't know, she is the Librarian of Congress. She's super freaking cool and just a delight. And I got my picture taken with her. Yes, we're gonna do one and then I'll bring it back to the board next month.
Do we need to vote on
Nope.
it? Oh, okay.
Right, you don't need to vote now, they'll ratify next time the master plan contract.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
No,
But I would suggest that the board actually vote to authorize you to enter into the contract instead of just getting their consensus here.
Okay,
Okay,
so
so I was mistaken while he's here.
we have, we have the option one to approve, Stephanie, to do the contract. Alan,
Yeah, I was gonna say, we want me to go ahead and.
I can hear you.
Let me go back there. So I move that the executive director be authorized to enter into a contract for a facilities master plan based on the consensus of the selection committee.
And the second,
I'll second that.
just in a second, we move in second that we approve the executive director to enter into a contract with facilities master plan. I will call the roll. Ann, Barry,
Aye.
Christine,
Aye.
Alan,
Aye.
Ruth,
Aye.
and I vote aye. So we move unanimously. So you have authority. And do we need to move from the report? Now I need a motion to approve director's report.
So moved.
Second.
Terry said yes. The move is second to be approved the executive director's report. I will call the roll. Ann,
Aye.
Terry,
Aye.
Christine,
Aye.
Alan,
Aye.
Ruth,
Aye.
and I vote aye. All approved. Very good. Patient engagement report.
I don't have much to say new on the,
I have to speak a little bit louder.
all right, I will project. I don't have much to say new on the report this month, but I wanted to go off report and, give you some at how we're doing with summer reading this year. So we have 4,500, a little north of that, registrations this year. And I will say that is above the goal we had set for ourselves.
Wow.
So we are beyond excited. And as a surprise within a surprise is the adult readers have actually been the, that we've seen the most growth in that area. And while summer reading really targets children and helping them get through the summer slide, it's encouraging to see adults participating. And many of these adults, we've done a quick look at demographics, are like 20 to 40. And we don't know if they're families, but kids have to don't read in order to understand the importance and build the habit. So we're really excited to see the adults in our community picking up a book and reading this.
So what do you attribute to this gain and how do we continue it?
I think it's two things. One, our staff has been super excited about it. And I think we see the greatest participation when staff are out there talking about it, getting the community excited, and then it just kind of ripples through. We also did a big push at the school before the end of the year, and I think that helped a lot. But we made significant changes to how the program operates to make it easy. And I think Stephanie talked about that at the last meeting. It's easier to register, it's easier to participate, And you get a free book every month. You're gonna get a t-shirt in July, you got some cool pins and stickers in June, so we just made it easy and you get better stuff. Talking about it a lot.
And books, you get a book.
You get a book,
And that's, yeah.
and like good books,
How about free kittens?
next year.
Don't put that in the minutes.
So you how? Well, as an adult reader, is it, they meet once a week or what?
There's no, besides coming to programs or doing events in the community, it's really a on your own
Okay.
participation. But although that is an interesting idea for future also. But, so it's really just people who are coming, they're registered, and then they track their progress. They're reading, going to a park, coming to a library, all these sort of things, and then they kind of go through until the end of the summer.
I like that. Any other question, Jennifer? Thank you. Ms. Treasurer. You got anybody?
We have money. So really what I'm gonna kind of go through, today, as you can see the report, the fund report, we are doing well. We did receive our, June deposits. Obviously, those aren't on there, but I want to make sure that you're aware of those, that those did come through. We've got $9 million between our county, debt service and library general fund. So we are doing well, and we will be managing those, and moving something to our investments, which is the enjoyable part of my report that I always get to give now, which is our Trust Indiana, where we are. Our average yield is 5.0476%. And in the general fund, as of May, we had made 38,000 in interest, and as of the board meeting, 76,331.94. In all, and then 1 month, yeah, for the general fund, for the full time that we've had it in there. And then for all of the funds, we've done, as of the board meeting, 146,345 in gains, through Trust Indiana. Since March.
Very good.
Yes.
On page 24 of our board packet is the listing of, it's called line by line, is actual versus the budgeted fund down. And I just noticed line 317 miscellaneous services we're at 93%. You know, we're about a third of the year, but we're at 93%. So any idea what that's the line item is miscellaneous services? We've got 414,000 already, and we have 444 the budget. Any idea at all what's included in 317? And
So I'm gonna have Stephanie help me a little bit, but the miscellaneous services is a lot of the times, some of our applications that are being used within the library. So some of that is, part of what that miscellaneous services is.
I'm sorry, you said
So computer applications.
oh,
So some of that is that, so we have the subscription at the beginning of the year, we paid it all, that's the subscription. And that's what we're already, kind of doing. So anything else you can think of?
So you'll recall that I wrote this budget last year without a CFO and with very little experience in the library. So miscellaneous services really shouldn't have as much as it has. So Anjanette and I are working really hard to, in the next budget cycle, which we're sort of beginning now, to pull out some of the things that should be labeled. Because miscellaneous shouldn't be such a large line item. So you'll see as we go through the next couple of months, we're gonna start moving some money around to where it makes more sense.
thanks.
Good question.
Any questions on that? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve this financial report.
So moved.
Second.
Christie, I have a motion to approve financial report. I will call the roll. I will start with you.
Aye.
Harry? Aye. That's Alan.
Okay, I vote aye.
Christine,
I,
Terry,
Again.
and,
I agree.
Yeah.
Well, I think I'll have to view that.
hold on. Okay, I'll pass that report on the unfinished business. If not, new business, we will start with the additional personnel policy. And please, Kara, gonna do that? or-
Yeah. So this is a policy that was recommended by our insurance company, but is not a change of any of our practices. It's just formalizing what we already do, and was reviewed by Jim. So just want to say formally that we will not hurt anyone. Thank you.
Just
It's
trying.
recommended by, let's change that to required by.
Yeah,
Required by the system.
Yeah,
Yeah.
since we have, public safety personnel. So we'll get it approved now, we'll have public safety read and sign, and then we'll include it in the handbook.
yes.
So I move the
Wait, I just have a question. Is there training for staff on all this, like how you de-escalate and how?
So public safety has more extensive training, and then they train all of the staff on how to de-escalate things, but then they also take a lot of trainings, from Ryan Dowd, who is a librarian, who does a lot of,
He's not a librarian, he worked for the shelter, the homeless shelter in Chicago for many, many years.
yes. But he's worked with the homeless a lot, and the unsheltered, so. His trainings focus a lot on de-escalation techniques and treating people with empathy and finding ways to talk to people, understanding their trauma, to treat them like people. There.
I'd like to make a positive comment. I think it's Charles. That's
Yes.
security. I've seen him in two situations and he's got a knack of just,
Doesn't he calm?
Yeah.
He just calms people.
I watched one situation, it wasn't too really gonna get out of hand, but he would have thrown gasoline on it, I'm sure. And he doused it.
Yeah,
I was impressed.
Yeah.
A couple of times.
yeah,
Got a nice, perfect misdemeanor.
his whole philosophy is customer service first, and if you provide really great customer service and you create relationships with people, then you don't have nearly as many incidents.
Works.
he cares so much, yes.
For approval. Okay. I have the update on the personnel policy. Do I have a motion to approve?
So move.
Second, Christine, it's been motion and approved, motion and second to approve the new. That new is just,
One second, when you say I, you could also put up your hand, because Marvin is having a hard time hearing,
Yeah.
so
Oh,
you could just also,
give it a second.
What if it's name?
well,
Different signal.
we could do it that round. Just something to indicate your vote.
Okay, so it's been. There's a motion on the floor and, all in favor, I will call the roll. I will start with Ann,
Aye.
Gary,
Aye.
Christine,
I,
Alan. Aye. Thank you, and I vote aye. All right, done and approved. Let's go to personnel.
Handbook, yep.
Yep.
Our next item is purchasing policy. Jeanette?
Yeah, okay. So, we noticed when we talked about this last month, that we are going through and doing internal controls and, working through that documentation. And, we noticed that the purchasing policy, we could not find one that was finalized. So we, went through and, updated, the purchasing policy to ensure that we have one on record. And that information, I believe Stephanie gave you a copy of an updated one that's not the one that's in the packet. There were some changes that Jim made to that purchasing policy. So we are asking that, that be approved.
And it really is a reflection of the law, with the exception of, that we may use local vendors, give priority to local vendors, and that we may give priority to minority, veteran-owned, women-owned businesses. Ellen,
So, yeah, so that was one clarification. So XBE in the second paragraph is emerging business enterprise. Is that what that
it's
is?
minority,
So is that defined someplace?
it
It
is,
is.
it's a new term that we learned, and I'm sorry that I didn't define it for you, but it just encompasses all of
But
those.
XBE, is that a federal definition? Is that a state definition? Is that?
It's a,
It's a DEI diversity definition as far as I'm aware of.
DEI stands for you're using.
So, diversity, equity, inclusion. So there are many companies that are XBE, which is, minority owned, women owned, disability, owned businesses. Or with the ownership. So that's what the X is. It encompasses multiple types of, diversity.
and the state of Indiana uses the term in some of its purchasing
But they don't
policies.
really define it, it's just XBE.
It's XB, well, sometimes you see MB, which is minority
That's why I was
business
wondering.
enterprise, sometimes you see WBE, which is women owned business enterprise, BBE, veteran business enterprise. This just encompasses all of those.
So the X is kind of a placeholder.
Yeah.
Yes, for all of it.
Yeah.
So I'm curious because it says staff will compare prices from as many responsible suppliers as practical. And then staff shall purchase from the suppliers where total costs are lowest when quality and timeliness of delivery are comparable. So if we're saying that we're gonna use total cost is lowest, then how do you give consideration? So how does that tie in with the statement in the paragraph before that that says we're gonna give consideration to people who are vendors within the library district or our XBE, so who offer competitive prices. So competitive means, does competitive mean they still have to be the lowest?
No.
So
We're not
we-
gonna do,
Because we say we shall purchase from over total cost or lowest. I'm just curious how do you.
but this is an optional, so may makes it optional, so we may choose one of these businesses, because it's local, or because we're giving a preference to minority-owned business. But we're not gonna go like, rate, like, the price has to still be comparable. It may be a little more expensive to shop local, but it can't be extra. Like
So
it's
it
too
may be,
low.
okay, but Jim, you're good with this, out for
Well, I was just going to add the comment that even under public bidding.
Yeah.
You're not required to give the bid to the lowest bidder.
okay.
You're required to give the bid to the lowest, most responsive and responsible bidder. And those buzzwords, responsive means the person who submitted a bid that complies with the specifications. And responsible means somebody who's got the capability of doing the job. So those are factors that you look at aside from price. So you're not always required to go with the lowest price, even in bidding. So here, when we're just picking vendors, you're using the same idea.
Okay.
That it's not necessarily the lowest price, it's the most qualified who also has the lowest price.
And we make a decision as local. Okay, got it, I got it, okay, works for me.
So I know that Indiana does some odd things, but what is this? Not engaged in investment activities in Iran? That's the law.
It's been a law in the state since about, well, at least the last 15 years. And it's required on all bidding, and it used to be only required on public bids for buildings, contract, construction work. Now it's required even on purchases.
So that led
So we gotta talk to the State Department.
That led me to a question. I've been involved in working on a grant for another organization, and it was federal money passed through the state. But there was a requirement that any, security cameras and the security equipment cannot have been made in China or various other places. It just made me curious if there's any kind of designation like that on security equipment here.
I'm not aware of any.
I did not see that while I was pulling the policy, so.
I'm not aware of that public purchases in general in Indiana.
It could be your the grantor.
No, well, it was federal government.
Oh, and
That's the grantor.
maybe there,
You know, that a lot of times those federal grants are the result of some of these lobbying efforts. So you don't know if there's a manufacturer out there who got the ear of some bureaucrat in the federal government to eliminate competition from China on bidding for a particular project.
Yeah, I was just curious because
It's not part of Indiana law for the local government purchases.
okay.
interesting question though.
Any questions for Antoinette or Stephanie? If not, I need a motion to, this is for policy. The motion to approve.
I move to approve this policy, purchasing policy.
I'll second.
Thank you. The move is second that we approve the new purchasing policy. I will call the roll. I will start with Ruth.
Aye.
Alan.
Aye.
Christine.
Aye.
Gary. Aye. And Ann.
Aye.
And I approve. Congratulations. Election development policy.
Ron, we'd like to ask your approval and some updates on the collection development policy. And most of these are clarification. For example, local and family history, 4.2.2, we've always had an internal policy, but this puts it in the overall collection development policy. And it outlines that we collect documents for the history, communities, and people of St. Joe County. And then under 4.3, there's one clarification about digital services from some third-party vendors that we don't necessarily select those. We get what they offer, basically. And then under 4.6, we added teens. So I believe it used to just say children, and now we clarified that it's actually children and teen all the way through high school. So first year high school. And then for 4.8, we just wanted to clarify our review process for reconsideration of library materials. So we've always had a form that could be filled out if someone is challenging the inclusion of a library material, but this just spells out exactly what we do once we receive that form. And Dave Height is also here. He's our collection development manager. If you have questions, you can help us out.
I do have one question. The individual may appeal the decision to the library board, I understand that. If the library board disagrees, where do they go from there? I mean, it's out of our hands sort of, but does that get it into, if they want, so choose, they head for.
You're the final authority, the board is, so it would go to a vote
Right,
of the board, so
Right.
majority will,
but do they have a recourse beyond that?
no.
I've seen all these lawsuits and things out there that I don't know if they got there through a path like this or not.
Every state is different in the way their libraries operate, so that could be part of it. Some states have their libraries as part of the county government or part of the city government. In some states, they're not for profit, so it just varies from state to state. Here in Indiana, we have we are our own governmental unit, so the board here is the final say in matters of policy. And this would be a matter of policy.
So I have a question based on, you just raised the issue of digital services. What if there's a title that's on Hoopla or Libby that people don't like? How does that play out?
Well, Hoopla is the one that we don't select the individual titles, we do for Libby. That's a great question. And that's why it's spelled out here that we can't do anything about that.
Hoopla is a collection, and even if you look at our databases, ProQuest, for example, has journal articles from a wide variety of journals, like you can find anything on it. We don't publish those articles, so you can challenge something, but we can't do anything about it. Hoopla, we can't do anything about it. Libby, we could, because we buy individual titles, but not magazines on
Correct.
Libby, right?
Correct.
So Flipster's another one, we don't
Flipster, we
do.
purchase, but the magazines through Libby, those are automatically provided with the service.
They're a package deal. So we just wanted to clarify for the package deals. We can let the vendor know that we got a request for reconsideration, but we can't actually, we have no power there.
And I can speak about Hoopla. Over the last year and a half, there have been several titles raised with them on why they were allowed to be in the Hoopla collection. And Hoopla's response was, they are going to be a little more selective and just not push everything. But they're going to be a little more careful about what they make available.
I have a question. So the paper form, is there a paper form for the request for consideration?
Yeah.
And then, I just didn't understand this. Determination will be based on conforms to the collection department policy based on the work as a whole. What does that mean?
Rather than like a chapter
Oh,
or
One line.
one page or, yeah.
For questions? Now we'll entertain a motion to approve
so move,
and motion.
so move.
Okay. Now Terry, I'll second. It's been moved and seconded that we approve the policy on the actions development. Call the roll. I will start with Ann,
Aye.
Terry. Aye. Christine.
Aye.
Alan. Aye. Ruth.
Aye.
And I will aye. Approved. Okay. Any other business on the board? Alan.
While we were talking, since we have our computers here, I Googled, Indiana in conjunction with,
I can't hear you.
I Googled Indiana, and then prohibiting, Chinese technology. And I noticed that on May 1st, our governor Holcomb signed a law to prohibit the purchase of dangerous Chinese technology. It could put the state and its sensitive data at risk. And I noticed that the definition, I took a quick look at the Senate Bill 477, which I'll send a copy of this.
Leave it to the attorney on the.
Anyway, I'm assuming that we're a political subdivision, or
We are,
a political
yes.
subdivision under, if we are one of those political subdivisions as defined in the statute. And I assume this would go into effect July 1, so we might theoretically, this might become.
It
we might-
depends on what the computer,
Anyway, I just want you all to be aware.
so we might come back next month with an amendment to the policy.
To make sure we
After-
have it. Some memory.
But I will say, Anjanette and I just attended a Department of Local Government Finance legislative update. And that did not come up,
Okay.
but they passed a lot of new laws, as they do all the time, so sometimes it's hard to keep up.
The other business?
Jim?
On that policy that you just adopted on the review, that typographical error that we talked about, did that get corrected? Because I'm looking over Anjanu's shoulder at her screen and it's not corrected on the version she had up.
She's got a print version.
Okay, in the print version, is it correct?
Yep.
We got you. You got good.
No, I'm not talking about this one, I'm talking about the policy on the review of,
Yes,
okay, that's the purchasing policy.
yeah.
You have the policy on.
Oh, probably.
Still not corrected on this.
Which typo?
Or black out right there.
Oh. Service area district.
Should say district, say library district.
We need a motion to amend that?
Or just accept that as the version.
So you want me to? So the policy St. Joseph County Public Library Service Area District. Under 4.8. Yes, thank you, Ruth. It should just say district.
So we should delete service area, this is district.
Yeah, so we just need a motion to delete service area.
Motion to delete.
I'm gonna delete service area.
Second,
Second. Yes, okay. Yes, the motion is to delete on section of the section development, section 4.8, paragraph 2. It should be the individual who desires to request an item for consideration must reside in the St. Joseph County Public Library District. When, call the Ann,
Aye.
Terry? Aye. Christine?
aye.
Alan?
Aye.
I'm away. That's good.
Just as a point of confusion, what difference did that make?
A big difference.
The area.
Most people who were to have legal standing to challenge a decision from the library, for example, must live in the library district. The library district being the townships that encompass this library district. The service area, in my estimation, could be something different. Because we've got public library access cards, we got reciprocal borrowing agreements. We have an agreement that I'm not sure it's still in effect anymore, with Freeman Public Library and public libraries and other areas. If you say that's our service area, that opens it up to a whole lot of people who don't pay taxes in this district, wanting to come say something about what our library collection is. So I think it should follow the law, and that is, if you want to challenge the action of the library district, you need to be a resident of it.
Fair.
Just of the library district.
Yeah, and we did talk about it, and I thought it was changed.
Yeah, I thought it was too, but I just happened to look over her shoulder and see it wasn't.
Thank you, sir. The leader, sir. Okay. Further business? This is time to hear from visitors. Is anyone wish to speak to the library board? I'm good. Business education items.
No, nothing, sorry.
Then, next library board meeting will be Monday, July 24th at the Central Branch. The Center Branch, the alligator room on Kern Road in South Bend.
Yeah, in your neighborhood.
That's in my neighborhood.
Got a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second, and
We'll send the meeting adjourned. I will call the roll. Ann,
Aye.
Terry, Christine,
Aye.
Alan.
Aye.
Ruth,
I.
Thank you very much. You're live, folks.